in an ambush the Chinese set on Damansky Island in the Ussuri River. The skirmishing only ended some months later when the Russians held out an olive branch. This is the first major incident since then. It comes 11 days after the Chinese leadership told Britain's defence chief, Sir Neil Cameron, how weak they were along the Soviet border, while he replied that Britain and China had a common enemy in Moscow. The real test of the seriousness of the clash will be the effect it has on the peace talks between the Russians and the Chinese about their border dispute, which have dragged on fruitlessly ever since 1969 and which only resumed a fortnight ago. And we still haven't heard what the Russians have to say about the whole incident.
Scotland Yard detectives investigating allegations of sanctions breaking have been to the international trading company Lonrho. They've asked for documents about the company's activities in Rhodesia. A Lonrho spokesman said tonight, "There's nothing we have to hide or be ashamed of." After the two government defeats on income tax this week, ministers are now said to be hopeful that the rest of the main budget proposals will be approved by the Commons. One of our Westminster staff says it became clear after today's cabinet meeting that there's no government intention of seeking a vote of confidence, and the remote possibility of a summer election has been ruled out. The Prime Minister in Manchester tonight criticised the Conservative voting on the budget proposals. He said their sole aim was to help the better off.
Now the Conservative Party, aided by its miscellaneous group of allies, who, let me say, voted with them for entirely different reasons, voted with them in order to blackmail the government to do other things that were quite unrelated to the merits of the case. That is the degree of cynicism to which they sunk. They struck their blow at this family budget. I hope they feel proud of themselves. Although it was clear last night that they weren't clear as to what it was exactly they thought they'd done. For one thing at least, Mr. Chairman, we can be grateful. Their actions on Monday and again last night have made the differences between the parties clear. We chose our priorities in the budget. The family, they chose their priorities last night, and you saw what they were. And their votes show more clearly than a score of honeyed speeches where their interests and their sectional interests truly lie.
The Scottish Conservatives, on the opening day of their conference in Perth, have launched a vigorous attack against the Scottish National Party. They criticised particularly the plans for a land commission to oversee the ownership of farming land, a stance they hope will help them win back rural seats from the nationalists. From Perth, our Scottish political correspondent Chris Barr.
For the first time in about 4 years, the Scottish Conservative clans have been gathering here with a new sense of hope. The opinion polls are now showing a consistent improvement over their disastrous performances in the last two general elections, and more important, they've advanced modestly well in Scotland's recent local government elections. A combination of this and the simultaneous revival of the Labour vote has convinced them that the nationalists will be squeezed so badly that they'll lose many of the 8 seats they won from the Tories last time. And their leader, Teddy Taylor, is also convinced that they're not being damaged by ditching the Scottish Home Rule policy, which they actually launched here exactly 10 years ago.
And I believe that events will prove that we will gain and not lose as a party by having had the courage to stand alone as a party in Westminster in voting against the government's bureaucratic and divisive assembly.